I wake up with my routine. But within walking distance, many others live at more like a reception hall, where they sleep and eat with no private space. They live lives that hardly resemble my own, and it bothers me. Why are they living like that in a country that boasts opportunity and wealth? So I started a nonprofit. It provided a method to give folks a way to make some money and to have some purpose for the day. In that process, I got to know street survivors, and I was given a dare. If I really wanted to know what their lives were like, sleep at a homeless shelter, eat at soup kitchens, go through the day just like they do. I agreed, but I was terrified. What would it be like? Would I get beat up? Or, as my wife said to me, pick up body lice? It took me almost 6 months to get up the guts to do it, and I got some counseling.
I mean, the first night I ever spent at Dorothy Day, I lost my shoes. If you're carrying a bag or personal belongings, you take your shoes, you tie them to your bag, you put the bag up under your head, or, you got to strap it to you.
You definitely need to look out for those that actually have a mentality, a street savvy mentality as you, because everyone's trying to get over. Everybody's looking for the bigger piece, You got to look out for thieves. You got to look out for those that's running game. You have to look out for those that's trying to befriend you. You have to just stay on guard.
After I got put out, I tried sleeping out by the railroad tracks in between the tracks, but it wasn't very comfortable out there. Like I said, it's like first time, I didn't know.
I took advice for how I should present myself on my first night.
You need to look out for, for starters, what you keep in your wallet, or even bringing a wallet or money or cash or anything that has value. I would, if you're going to play the homeless role for a day, you leave those things at home. I'd even go as far as to say leave your cell phone home. Backpack would be good. Old backpack, used backpack. Can't walk in there clean shaven and clean clothes and clean backpack and nice brand new tennis shoes because no one's going to believe you. So you need to walk in looking like a little bit haggard. So I would say give yourself a 2 or 3 day start on your beard.
During the time I waited, I really started to wonder about the number of unsheltered people in the United States and in Minnesota. I looked it up later on. Statistics say that there are an estimated 500,000 people unsheltered nationwide on any one night, more than in the entire city of Atlanta. In Minnesota, the estimates indicate over 9,000. Of these persons without shelter, I'm witnessing just those in one overnight shelter. I'm not seeing those who are couch hoppers, those who sleep in vehicles, those who camp, those under 24 years old, women, and women with children. Women with children and youth comprise half the homeless. And then, even though blacks comprise 5% of the Minnesota population, almost 40% of unsheltered people are black. One thing was certain on this frostbit January night: nobody was smiling. How did they get here? What could happen in a person's life to get them in this lobby, in this God-forsaken place?
I think people become homeless because they don't have any support behind them. And their families no longer want them. I believe that from the bottom of my heart. That was true with my family. 2 brothers, 3 sisters, 3 sons, a daughter, and a mother. And the word homelessness was like a plague. They thought I might as well have had leprosy. They didn't want to be anywhere near me. So to me, it's all about relationship.
All of these people that claim that they love me, where are they at now? You know, I really need them.
To be generous, I suspect friends and family want their privacy and have enough troubles of their own. But maybe there are some people who don't want anything to do with family and friends, who just want to leave the hustle and bustle of life, who choose to be homeless.
You hear about people losing their jobs, being so many paychecks away from, losing their house, whatever. No one chooses that, No one that I know want to lose their house and, all their possessions and their family. You never know. It's like it can happen. It can happen to anybody. It can happen to everybody.
So once you're without shelter and you didn't choose it, you'd think a person would do anything to get out, to not be homeless, even if they don't have family or friends who'll take them in. Yet statistics show many homeless are trapped in a system. They are chronically homeless, especially when it comes to single males. Why? Does something life-changing happen to a person who becomes homeless, even if it's only for a week, a month?
This is the future.
Or been forgotten about.
When I was young, I dreamed of big houses.
It's my life.
When I was young, I dreamed of big houses.
That was my night at the shelter. Actually, the lights never went off, they were dimmed. And staff stayed up all night long at the desk, which gave me a sense of safety. And people took showers all through the night in the bathroom without a door, which kept me awake. So now I've had my first taste of what happens when you're homeless and sleep deprived. But in another shelter, it can be even worse. People sleep on thin mattresses on the floor.
I have this thing about people laying or being around me too close. But then, when it started getting overcrowded, when you got people that are like 9 inches apart, it just doesn't work. I had to end up leaving there because a guy rolled over and I thought he was trying to spoon with me or something other. So that's when I decided, you know what, I can survive better outside than I can inside.
I guess I didn't have it so bad overnight. Whatever the case, I had hardly begun the experience of being homeless.
No, it wasn't easy. It was like, it took me a long time to figure out, from being in weird, living in different environments, it was like when I waited out and then I started following people to find out where they was going because I seen them on a daily basis. And then that's when I finally got into the habit of, oh, I can go here, I can go there. I got to keep a few dollars in my pocket. I'm not going to walk all day long. I had to learn, what areas, where I could go and not be bothered or harassed, because of the situation I was in. Those things you had to figure out on your own.
And finally I got into the routine, okay, well, you go here at a certain time of day and you get something to eat, and you go here for a certain time of day and you get hang out or whatever.
You find yourself reading a lot of newspapers, a lot of books. I tried not to really fit that description, but when you're lugging a backpack around in a gym bag, that's kind of hard to do.
Adapting to homelessness comes quite naturally. Obviously, you're scared. You just went through a pretty traumatic experience. Adapting is something that actually the body does very well. It's the mind. It's the mind that doesn't adapt well. You'll adapt to sleeping on the floor. You'll adapt to eating high fat content foods. You'll get used to drinking bad coffee. You'll get used to walking. If you haven't walked before, you'll get used to walking. You'll get used to carrying a backpack. It's incredible, really, the human body. It's quite remarkable. But once again, the body will adapt. The mind is quite another story. However, the mind kind of goes the other direction, if you will. It doesn't adapt very well. It says, wait a minute, I want my old lifestyle back. I don't want to get used to any of this. And then there's the mind-body struggle that goes along with that. And actually, that ends up driving a lot of people crazy.
I have to say it. I'm already losing the sense that I belong in the other world, the world I'm used to. I'm feeling odd, but I suspect over time I'd be feeling other things.
You feel lonely. You feel worthless. You feel like unloved, rejected. All the usual terms you hear with the homeless. Those aren't just statements. Those are facts. Those people don't feel loved. They don't feel respected. They don't feel wanted. They don't feel needed or loved in any way, shape, or form. And to feel that way for any period of time is going to drive anybody into the depths of depression very quickly. Very, very quickly. I have a God who's always walking with me, but it sure didn't seem like it there, I'll tell you.
I'm too God-fearing, to ever think there's no hope. It's almost like, it's crossed my mind to commit suicide, not committed, but just to get out of this world, right? But I'm too God-fearing. There's no way I'd kill myself.
I went to another place where street survivors can hang out and where some social services are available. It was as noisy and crowded as at the shelter. I felt like I wanted to be left alone, unlike Kenneth, who felt another way.
I was very hopeless. I was in a real dark stage, and I would use everything in my advantage to actually try to get someone to understand, get someone to listen, because it's kind of hard kind of opening up to, somebody that you actually don't know.
I decided I should see exactly how hopeless I should be. I went to a place a bit difficult to locate on a map and outside the downtown area. I talked with a lady behind the desk. After introducing myself, I asked how long it would be before I could get into transitional housing. She asked me where I stayed, and I told her. She said I should work with their housing person, and she said the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease. Oh, you don't know? Who should I talk to? Okay, you don't know? Who should I talk to?
But that didn't answer my question. I still wanted to know how long I should expect to get transitional housing, a roof over my head.
I've heard that in the Twin Cities there's transitional housing available for everyone.
Not everyone. Transitional housing fills up, and because it's usually 2 years.
Wait a second. What did she say?
Transitional housing fills up, and because it's usually 2 years.
2 years? 2 years of this? If nothing else, I definitely needed to find out how I can get money now.
Do you receive cash assistance right now?
No.
I was going to say you may qualify because unless you have any other income, if you're a veteran or anything, then most time when you're over 55, you qualify for 203.
What is it called?
It's general assistance.
Okay.
And you qualify $200 a month.
$200 a month.
Yes, sir. And you would just have to go back to the county office and apply.
So I can get general assistance at $203 and food stamps. Maybe even try to get something from Social Security because I'm 60 and out of work. $203 a month doesn't sound like money, but it's enough to keep people in the homeless system. But maybe there's money to be made another way. Maybe I should panhandle. The whole panhandling thing is a touchy subject. Some take advantage of it. Others simply need food for a day, by one estimate, what is needed by 94%. Statistics show that the take from panhandling averages at $25, which means half the time you get less than that. So, not for me. Yet, I still didn't know how it is you couldn't find some kind of work.
Actually, finding a job and dealing with the situation at hand, being homeless, it didn't seem like that would work out. Being homeless, not having nowhere to go after you work, it just didn't make any sense to me, to work and then you're homeless at the same token. Now, if I had an actual roof, I would have worked, because it would have went hand in hand. But being homeless and working kind of doesn't seem like it goes together.
I couldn't find IT work. Ended up taking a job at a manufacturing outfit, being an electrician, a journeyman electrician, which I knew nothing about, but they brought me in virtually sight unseen and put me to work. Had almost 4 months of full 40-hour full-time job at $15 or $16 an hour, so I had good money. I'm now making $2,000 a month cash. I had that sitting, and they laid me off. It wasn't totally unexpected. So now I'm out of job, and that was wreaking all kinds of havoc with my sleep, with my eating. I was losing weight again, and I was depressed. And none of those scenarios was any good. And you put them all three together, and you got a pretty bad picture. So I started on a 3-month downward spiral. That ended me up at the mental health ward at St. Joseph's for 72 hours. They put me on a 72-hour mental hold. Obviously emotionally unstable and crying and angry and bitter, and it was just a mess. And I think this is typical. I think that's this part of the story isn't atypical. It's what happens to a lot of people. It's not a one-time loss. It's not a one-time homelessness thing. It's you get yourself stable, you get a room, you get a job, you lose a job, you lose your home. I mean, and it's that repeating cycle of in and out of work, in and out of your own apartment, in and out of stability, and your life is just a series of those kinds of things.
Actually, in a position where I was actually working for a guy a few hours a day, and then when I would come back to wherever my things was at, I actually went to prison because I caught somebody stealing my stuff. And I ended up beating the crap out of him. I went to prison. And going to prison for simply defending what's yours and you're black, it's hard. It took months of me being in prison for them to say, well, okay, you didn't have to come here. Why would they sentence you to all of this time when your assault charge only carried 15 months? So now, at that point in time, it was like, okay, you're in your early 40s and you finally got a felony just for protecting what was mine.
Seems like the job thing is more complicated than one would think. No one said as much, but it is near impossible to jump from government assistance to at least the $15 an hour necessary to live in an apartment but I thought I'd try to get a job myself rather than just take their word for it. I didn't have to imagine very hard to figure out how I could become homeless, and I told the 20-something woman who is here to help me a little about my situation. I tell her that I worked in science, lost my job, but have only a BA degree in journalism, and so I can't get a job anymore in science because I don't have the right degree, even though I've worked in science for 24 years. She recommended networking to get back in science, something I had no confidence about. She let me know that I can use their computers to search for a job, and I could get a locker to store my things for free for the first month. Unless I lucked into a science job, my more likely hope was a job at about $11 an hour, which means I'd still be homeless. Without an address to call home, with a potential police record, with just needing to pay attention to survival, getting a job with enough pay is nearly out of the question. Yet isn't there always someone who defies the odds, who rises from the gutter to make something of themselves? And isn't that what you'd like to see in a documentary versus a depressing look at homelessness? As a scientist, I'm familiar with the bell curve as a way to describe events. In populations, generally you have most people or animals operating along an average, or the bell part of the curve. But there are always those on the edges, what are called the outliers. For street survivors, there are those who escape homelessness early on. They escape chronic homelessness through grit and determination. In our culture, we expect everyone to have grit and determination.
I don't know anybody who's been homeless for a week or a day or a month even. The homeless people that I know have been homeless, many of them, for years on end. I think once you're homeless and have been homeless for a while, it's almost becomes part of your DNA.
DNA? It wasn't until I learned about a field of science called behavioral epigenetics that I began to understand chronic homelessness. It turns out that genes can be activated or inactivated, turned on or off, depending on the influence of the environment. So the environment you live in can actually cause changes in your DNA and then in your behavior.
You know, I get misunderstood all the time because I'm institutionalized. You know, I had to act like this and be like this because of prison. It's the only way to survive. And I couldn't turn it off and on when I come out of prison and become it just didn't work. It was confusing and hard.
While no studies have been done as of the making of this film on the homeless population, studies looking at epigenetic effects of trauma have been done. And the research conclusively points to significant behavioral changes among populations who have been traumatized, no matter what their race, level of education, or level of wealth. And just like any bell curve, the average are traumatized, with outliers traumatized more or less, or not at all. And what could be more traumatizing than being put out on the streets with no place to call home for at least 2 years? I'm sure it would happen to me. But there are other human-altering events besides epigenetics. A kind of snail called Helosoma helped spawn research that proved brain cells look for different connections when adapting to new environments, what scientists call brain plasticity. So not only is it probable that epigenetic changes occur, but also that the hard wiring of the brain changes as well. Those traumatized and in survival mode are simply not the same people they once were.
To where I was, to where I went, and to where I'm heading back to. I wouldn't want anybody to experience what I experienced. Nobody. Just nobody. I don't hate anybody enough to have them go through this.
I think the biggest thing is that You have to give the homeless people back their dignity. Ask them their opinion. Make them inclusive. That's it.
Save me, serving